Let's take you now to Parliament. Of course, my colleague Koko Asante is joining us now with updates on what's happening on the House, the floor, as we understand that the Chief Justice nominee, Gertrude Torkornoo, has been approved. Koko, give us some updates as you have it.
Just about an hour ago, Parliament unanimously approved the nomination of Justice Gertrude Torkornoo to become the next Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. We know that at her vetting, the minority had insisted that without the judgment in the case of Judge Kwesi, they were not going to take any decision on her. The decision came on Monday, and the next day, on Tuesday, the minority held a news conference announcing that despite their strong disagreement with the judgment, they were not going to withhold their unanimous approval of her nomination because they believe that she was qualified in the person of Justice Gertrude Torkornoo to take over from Justice Enini Yeboah as Chief Justice, and also Jones Dottie, who has been acting in the past few days. And so the vote came down, but of course, not without some showdown, not without some strenuous debate on both sides. We first heard from the minority chief whip, Gavin Kwame Agboja, who argued that he was expecting that this Chief Justice, if she's sworn in, will be a better judge than Chief Justice, I beg your pardon, than Justice Kwesi Enini Yeboah. He argued and he contended that Kwesi Enini Yeboah presided over a court that delivered justices which were a miscarriage of justice in his opinion. The majority side, of course, hit back first. We heard from the first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osei-Wusu, who said that instead of lumping up the court together and criticizing them, they must pick each and every judgment of the court and argue with facts and on the basis of law before they can say that a case was wrongly decided. So, in all, the court has now, the court is now going to get a new Chief Justice in the person of Justice Gertrude Torkornoo after Parliament approved of her nomination by unanimous decision. And our understanding is that as soon as this evening, the President will swear her in.
Okay. What more do we need to know, Koko?
So there have been conversations about 10 must go. For instance, we know that only the past few months, some 98 NPP MPs came out demanding the head of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Today, we put that question to Majority Leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu. What is the caucus going to do about that? And according to the Majority Leader, the caucus will have to take a decision about it, but he hinted that maybe nothing will come out of that because in his own words, sometimes you have to let sleeping dogs lie. And so if you're expecting that Ken Ofori-Atta will be dismissed because the President had promised the NPP MPs that after the IMF deal is secured, he will take some action, then some answers have not been given by the Majority Leader. There have also been issues around the EC's proposed CI. EC has put together a CI which makes the Ghana card the sole identity document to register as a voter. The minority have been saying that they cannot allow that to go through. Just around the ending of March, they managed to get the consent of their majority colleagues and put together a report recommending to the EC to add more identity documents to it. We've heard from the EC saying that, well, they are an independent body. They will not be dictated to by Parliament or any other body. But today, both majority and minority leaders say that, well, true, we cannot dictate to the EC. But if the EC brings the CI and it's still the same way, then we are going to take some action on it by voting again, for instance. And then finally, there have been calls due to the current economic challenges for Parliament or other state agencies to downsize. Parliament is not doing this. Parliament has now actually split one directorate into three. There used to be what is called the Directorate of Public Affairs. It used to be headed by Kate Addo. It has now been divided into three with directors in each particular office with deputy directors. So there's now what used to be the Directorate of Public Affairs. It's now Directorate of Broadcasting, Directorate of Public Media Relations, and Directorate of Public Engagement. And we know that the former police spokesperson, DSP Efia Tenge, is now the Director of Public Engagement here in Parliament. So these are some of the concerns and issues that have come up today in Parliament.
Grateful, Koko Asante, giving us the latest from the House. And today, JoyNews is receiving details of why a member of Parliament is asking the Supreme Court to revoke the appointment of the newly appointed member of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Peter Apiahene, outlying member of Parliament, who's also serving on the ticket of the National Democratic Congress, Roxanne Nelson Apiamakpo, is asking the former lecturer and accusing him of having some affiliations with the governing party, which is the New Patriotic Party, contrary to law. And according to Ghana's constitution, of course, the dictate is that to be a member of the EC, you do not have to have any sort of affiliation to any political party openly or identify with a registered political party in Ghana. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Agable is joining us with more. But first, though, this concern was raised by the NDC a couple of months ago.
President Nana Akufo-Addo swore in the 3 new commissioners of the Electoral Commission on March 20, 2023. Dr. Peter Piahine's appointment continues to receive strong opposition. The latest is the National Democratic Congress, NDC, in the Bono region, where they said at a press conference that Dr. Piahine has been a patron of TESCON at UNE, an IT director, and a communicator for the governing NPP in the region, and hence cannot be trusted to be an independent-minded person. Charles Akowa is the regional communications officer.
He's a political activist. We've been with him in Sunyani. He has been on radio programs with my reps on radio stations and other places. So it will be very difficult for us to accept him as an EC official, which he has demonstrated that he's biased towards the NPP, who has been a patron for more than 4 years, a communicator with the regional communication team. We have his videos. I don't think any fair-minded person will select such a referee.
Mr. Akowa further alleged that Dr. Piahine represented the NPP at the EC in the Bono region during the 2020 elections, and they are unable to accept such a person at the EC.
He was at the EC 2020 representing the NPP as their IT person. Such a person who has been with my regional secretary arguing on figures and data, and you go and meet the same person representing the EC as an EC official. Do you think any political party beside the NPP can trust such a person to do the right thing? It will be very difficult to accept the man. We think even if they allow him to take care of just documentation, we suspect the guy can tamper with a document.
The NDC is appealing to the Council of State and other stakeholders to appeal to the President to revoke with the EC.
The Regional Communication Office, on behalf of the NDC, will appeal to the Council of State to consider their earlier advice on the appointment of Dr. Peter Piahine. The Regional Communication Office duly serves notice to the general public of the intention to serve petition and copies of this evidence to the National Peace Council, the Catholic Bishop Conference, the Council of State, the National Muslim Conference, and all the relevant bodies to appeal to the President to immediately revoke the appointment of Dr. Peter Piahine in order to have a smooth collaboration with the Electoral Commission going into the 2024 election.
Dr. Peter Piahine currently heads the Department of Computer Science and Informatics of the University of Energy and Natural Resources in Sunyani.
Okay, let's bring in our legal affairs correspondent, Joseph Agable, who's joining us via Zoom. Also joining us in this whole conversation will be a lawyer to help us unpack the legalities and the challenge ahead for the NDC MP. But Joe, let's start off with the details of why Nelson Apiamakpo is heading to the Supreme Court over this. What's his grounding, first of all?
First, he indicates to the court that he brings this action as a citizen of Ghana, who is enjoined by Article 2 and 130 of Ghana's Constitution, that in the event you believe that something has happened which is inconsistent with the Constitution, you bring the matter up to the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court to declare it as such. So that is the context in terms of the basis, the legal basis, which he approaches the court to trigger his jurisdiction. On that, they give some factual basis for this particular narrative. And so they say that, yes, he's an individual who was appointed and has been sworn in as a member of the Electoral Commission. He goes on to say that the first defendant, i.e., Dr. Apiahene, is a known sympathizer and affiliate of the New Patriotic Party. He has on various occasions been heard defending and touting the achievements of the New Patriotic Party on several television and radio stations. He goes on to say that on one such occasion, admitted to being an NPP communicator on the Anopa Nimdie Edraso show, which airs on the Nimdie FM in Sunyani. On another occasion, he was also heard on BATV bragging about his new appointment as the NPP IT director for the Bono region in respect of the 2020 election. And so the legislator, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo, attaches evidence, videos, recordings and radio recordings, audio recordings of these interviews and statements that he says captures Dr. Apiahene making these comments, them available to the court to say that, as far as they are concerned, the Supreme Court should interpret the Constitution and the relevant provisions which they cite here to make the point that he is not qualified to be a member of the Electoral Commission by virtue of the fact that it's an important organ of the state, one that supervises election, and it requires that the individuals who fill that particular position are seen to be persons who can be fair and are not partisan, and that Dr. Apiahene is not a fair person, is partisan because of his affiliation with the New Patriotic Party.
In terms of the reliefs being sought, what effect will that give, given that the court grants the demands of the MP?
The key relief has to do with their request for the Supreme Court to revoke the appointment of Dr. Apiahene by the President of the Republic of Ghana as a member of the Electoral Commission. In terms of other reliefs they are asking for, they are asking the courts to restrain Dr. Apiahene from acting as or holding himself out as a member of the Electoral Commission pending the determination of the suit. So that is even an interim measure that they are even asking for. They also ask for an order of perpetual injunction restraining Dr. Apiahene from acting as holding himself out as a member of the Electoral Commission. There are other declaratory reliefs that they are asking for. For instance, they are saying that the court should declare that upon a true and proper interpretation of the letter and spirit of Articles 23, 44.1, 45, 46, 284, and 296. And these are provisions that deals with the Electoral Commission, deals with administrative bodies being required to act fairly and reasonably, and the Electoral Commission as well says that on the basis of an interpretation of these provisions, a person is not qualified to be a member of the Electoral Commission if that person is a known sympathizer, a member or openly affiliates or identifies the registered political party. Another declaration is that a person who is a known sympathizer who openly affiliates the party will be biased or prejudiced in his constitutional duties as a member of the Electoral Commission. So that is by way of the declaratory reliefs that they are in the court to give.
Okay, grateful, Joseph Akablea, our legal affairs correspondent, giving us the latest on this. I want to bring in now lead fellow at the Center for Social Justice, lawyer Niyama Adi. Thank you for your time here on the poll. So you've seen the reliefs being sought by this NDC MP, obviously giving a further boost in the view of party members, the need for President Akufo-Addo to revoke the appointment of Dr. Peter Apiahene. But within the statutes, what's the provision in terms of what the requirement is for an individual who's been appointed to the Electoral Commission?
Okay, good. So good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to contribute. I think that the intention of Honorable Defamapo is well grounded in law, because who goes to court? Any aggrieved person can go to court, and therefore, if he finds that there are things that are being done which is contrary to things that would ensure the continuous peace of the country, and for that reason he decides to go to court, I think that that is the right and proper place to go. And if you look at the duties of the Electoral Commissioner, Article 46, the second part of it, and I would like to read for your clarity, says that except as provided in this Constitution or in any other law not consistent with this Constitution in the performance of its functions, the Electoral Commission shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority. 46, shall not be subject to the control of any person or authority. Here lies a gentleman who is known, and the evidence have been adduced to a particular political party. Therefore, putting this person in the helm of affairs of the Electoral Commission means that he will be subject to the control and authority of the appointing officer. And that is not in doubt, particularly when he is known to be associated with that particular party. I mean, the law is also so clear in the common law, in the common reasoning of the law. It talks about what we call reasonability. Reasonability. To say that in appointing somebody, there must be reasonableness. So where this person is known to have been to be affiliated to a particular political party, where that party is going into an election, reasonability tells us that this person can be tilted. Okay? So reasonability shows that he shouldn't be the right and proper person to occupy that position. 2, we're also talking about foreseeability. In foreseeability, should there be any rancor, should there be any disagreements about the processes of the Electoral Commission, foreseeability tells us that anybody can reasonably say that because this commissioner is linked to this particular party, he's going to do everything to their benefit, okay? And then the perception out there is very huge. Why should we do such a thing to ourselves when we know that our democracy is all we have? Well, when we know that we need to tread this cautiously and to hold our democracy in all esteem.
I get your point, but the jury is out there as to whether or not the new appointee will be objective in the discharge of his duty, which is sworn to, by the way. Besides that, there's the question about the law and ultimately where the power will lie. The power of appointment, as we know it, lies squarely within the remits of the president. He does the appointment, and as part of the requirements, I'm not sure there's any legal inhibition forcing the hands of the president to appoint someone who is politically neutral. Is there?
I mean, you rightly pointed it. Article 43(2) says that the member of the commission shall be appointed by the president under Article 70 of this Constitution. And when you go to Article 70, it tells you that it does so with the advice or consent of the Council of State. Exactly. So yes, the president is the proper and the right person to appoint. But we are saying that when that person who is to be appointed is known to be associated with a particular political party, then there is the issue of reasonability, foreseeability, perception, and then the peace of the country to be maintained. That is why it does not serve the interest of anybody to put that person in that place when it has openly shown his association or affiliation to a particular political party. Don't forget that you cannot be a referee and a player in your own match. This person has shown he has worked for the party. So there is the perception that he's been placed in that position to further enhance the work that he has done for the party.
Even before, right, even before the outcome of this ruling.
Issues of perception.
Right, even before, I get that point clearly, but even before the Supreme Court makes a determination on this case, what's your expectation from the appointee himself? Dr. Peter Piahini has not broken his silence on these matters. A lot of people waiting on him. You feel he should speak, or perhaps?
Definitely he's the beneficiary of it. So, he's the beneficiary of it. And if you look at the test for the position that he's going to occupy, ranking to the position of the appeals court judge, definitely tells you that, he will say, oh, I've fought for my party. It's reward time. Why should I shy away from the reward that is coming to me? So I would not expect him to say no. And he has not proven to hold that high moral standard that we've known of very few people around the world to say that I see a conflict of interest and that before this becomes a national issue, let me honorably resign. I don't see that. I don't see that. So he being quiet, you can interpret it directly and truthfully has been happy with what he's been rewarded to, because this is not coming out of a vacuum. He probably would have discussed it. He would have been told. He probably may have lobbied for it. Who knows? But I don't expect him to say no. There must be a very high moral standard, which the appointing officer should do. Or better still, the Council of State that advises the president in appointment should be able to advise him that, look, for the peace of our country, for the reasonability, the foreseeability, and then the perceptive reasons, let us put him aside. There are many other Ghanaians who are well qualified, independent in mind, have not shown any colors to occupy that position.
Okay, we need to go. We'll wait to see what the court will say about this. Niyama Ade, lead fellow at the Center for Social Justice. It's exactly 3 weeks to the Asin North by-election, and the battle line has been drawn as the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress lace their boots for a showdown. Today, delegates of the New Patriotic Party are deciding which candidate is best fit to lead the party. Frederick Amoache and Charles Opoku are the contenders. We'll take you to the constituency shortly for some updates, but first, let's zoom into why the Asin North is of interest to the governing New Patriotic Party and the biggest opposition political party. So 3 individuals to just take a look at right now within the Asin enclave. First of all, you have James Achikwesin, who polled one of the highest in terms of ranking votes within the central regional constituency of Asin North. Then you have, of course, Kennedy Japan coming through with some 57.3%. He's actually leading in that Asin enclave. You have John Ntimfojo, who's also on the side, coming through and controlling one part of the area with some 39.3% in the last election. So that's how crucial all of the matters are for the candidates working within the Asin area and demonstrating how swing the region or area is. You see the charts indicating that continually the candidates that represent the New Patriotic Party have their form of endorsement declining by the years, shooting up, first of all, for Kennedy Ejapong in the year 2000, and continually we see a decline, although he's been winning that election as the years go by, to where we are now, which was the last election in 2020, amongst one of the drops he's witnessed. But same can be said for the likes of the previous candidates who did that on the ticket of the NDC up to 2012, where he shot up. And then we have James Achikwesin taking it back after a decline in 2016. But James Achikwesin raising the bar high there. But for the presidential and parliamentary trends, you can see clearly that for the parliamentary votes and percentages, clearly at the point of 2020, the parliamentary votes were much more higher than the presidential slots. We went to the New Patriotic Party's candidate, now President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as opposed to the NDC sweeping that seat with some 55.21%. So that's the indication you can see clearly in terms of the dynamics governing what's happening within the area. We can now go live to the Asin North area. My colleague Richard Kojonyako is our man on the ground. Richard, what's the latest and what can you report?
Well, so Blessed, the primaries has ended. The NPP2 aspirant came up for this contest. We have Charles Opoku and then Freeman Chei. So at the close of polls, Charles Opoku polled 397 votes. 397 votes as against Freeman, who polled 157, and there are static scenes over here. As soon as the election ended and the declaration was done, the national figures, the national officers led by the General Secretary of the party, the national organizer, They took the victor, that is Charles Opoku, the one who won the primaries. They took him on a jolly ride through the town of Asen Akomfode. Remember, Asen Akomfode is one of the towns in the Asen North constituency. Now, two of them that stood for this election, they all come from Asen Breku. Asen Breku, incidentally, is where Mr. James Jachikwesin came from. Now, the argument has been that Joe Jachikwesin came from Asen Breku, and that is why he won the 2020 election. And so today they fielded two of the people that are also coming from the same town, and that is the biggest town in the Asen North constituency. But the NPP makes the point that it was because of some internal wranglings. That is why Mr. Joe Jachikwesin took advantage of that and then won. But now they have resolved all internal issues, coupled with the numerous projects that they have done in the constituency. As we speak, you can see the road that has been asphalted is a 32-kilometer road, and it spans the Asen Central, that is Kennedy Japan's constituency, right through to the Asen North constituency and to Katie Amon's constituency. And there are numerous projects that are being undertaken as we speak. There are earth-moving equipment that are currently in the constituency. They are trying to finish up. Various drainage systems are being constructed. There are some caterpillars, bulldozers that are currently on site. Some of the residents allude to the fact that, well, they need development, but the spate of events are currently the energy in the construction has come at a very quick pace, even though they need them. They feel that some of these things are being done for the elections, but the NPP says that no, the people need the development, and so once the development has started, even though they may have stalled at a certain point, they will continue with that project, and they are stopping at nothing, and the campaign towards the by-election begins from now. So currently, they have left Asen Akomfode and they are going to the town where Charles Opoku comes from, and they are beginning the campaign right away. Blessed.
Okay, how about leading figures within the New Patriotic Party who were present there? What sense do you get from them as to the readiness of the party and, of course, sweeping that seat from the National Democratic Congress?
Well, so they have been responding to issues that have been raised by the NDC that the candidate does not qualify. They raised issue that the candidate did not even have a vote, but they said that, well, it is because the NDC fears the candidate they are bringing, that is Charles Opoku, and that is why they are raising all manner of issues. But per the Constitution, Charles Opoku qualified by all stretch of the law, and so they do not understand why they are doing that. In terms of vote buying, the national organizer also replied that, well, they have begun all these projects. They began the project even before the 2020 elections. The project may have started at a point, but they are back in the constituency and they are doing what they can to complete that project. In fact, they indicate that the projects that are in this very constituency, there are over 100, and the president will be in town before the by-election to come and commission one of the projects. That is a 32-kilometer road stretch between Asen Fosu and the Asen Praso enclave. And so they say that everything has been resolved. They have resolved all their internal mechanisms, all the internal wranglings that made them lose the 2020 elections. And so they are going to wage an effective campaign and win the by-election.
Okay, you've been interacting with some of the party members. What have they been telling you?
Well, so they are very, very happy. They are ecstatic. Their joy knows no bound. They feel that this is someone who comes from within them, has stayed with them, owns an NGO, and the NGO has been going about some development, has given them some development in the constituency. Let me speak with this man. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Why are you excited? Why are you here?
Because of by-election, baso Asen North. And I'm a police station chairman. And the engineer by Beto Abano. See, I try Banary, Yehudi, Obedianim, our by-election. I didn't be back, send a bear. Your Betty has seated, and Untina was here.
More confident in between winning.
Oh, so far, so sharp. Andra, Yashahon Kekani and Ne, the SU1, dear. in fact city the affair na yesu enu adwuma ye bo adwuma pa ma party no.
Amanfo ka say mpuntudwuma ekoso inia because of by election inti na ekoso then na okafa ho.
Oh, so far so omo kan say dey ana edu ba bia uhwemu a mpuntudwuma no fine omo ba be ye bi de na emomo no so obi enti ase say ebia enimanimu ye na ba be mpuntudwuma eno no me wonchirem kakra che say at times BBC ofia anase bia wo engagement anase ye bi kura na yisisi fie ehwese ne be ya ana hoho bi ba mehu se ye efie na ye ba be engagement wo anase ye ba yi won ebia kire se BBC entina omoba enti se yisisi fie na se eba se ye de twa bibia mfi se no shada nyade a ehu anase hadwen enti ano de
no nye project na omo ye nye by election na omo ye sa project we some say project kro omo ejaye omo to aba we na contractors no kra fee side.
Oh so omo kan sa ano de ehun se adwuma de du ba bia omo ye no mo break kakra aha ena wo hwe animanim so ana se by election so ba na so omo to aso no mo sisi fi ne fie efe amamanfo ba fie omo hu se fie so animunyam wo fie.
So what this man essentially is saying is that, well, when you even have a funeral, engagement, a wedding ceremony, I mean, some preparation has to go on. Same with the by-election. So once there is an event that is coming, they need to increase the pace of development. So if it were to be wedding or something, they would paint the building, they would do other things. So he does not see that it is a move that is intended to buy their vote or sway them to vote for the NPP candidate. Thank you very much. What's your name?
My name is Isaac.
So why are you here? Were you a delegate?
Yes, please.
Okay, who did you vote for?
For that one.
But we are done with the election. Did you vote for Charles?
Yeah.
Why did you vote for Charles?
Oh, I love him. And he has put some things in measure that you want to help us in people. And that's why I love him.
He said that Charles comes from this constituency. He's done a lot. What are some of the things that Charles has done that will make you vote for him?
Oh, a lot. A lot.
Like I want you to name just two of them.
Oh, well, almost some year ago, I think he selected some people and he have been helping them to get their handwork so that they can also cater for themselves. So a lot. He's trying his possible best to help us in people. Yeah.
Are you personally, are you happy that a project will begin and then they stop for about 2, 3, 4 years, and then because there is a by-election, they quickly come and then they start asphalting the road, constructing the drainage and all of that? Personally, take yourself not as a party person.
All right. I think the government have already put these things into measures, and not because of the by-election. I think the project is under contract, so they have been doing their job already. Yeah.
But there are indications in the constituency that right after the 2020 elections, the contractors left sites. But now they have come to sites and they are using day and night to undertake these activities. Are you not sure that it is because of party politicking and all of that, or they mean business, or they mean well for you guys?
Oh, it has. I think they plan to do it, and very unfortunate it came across to this election, so we will take it like that.
What do you do? What job do you do?
I'm a painter.
You are a painter,
yes.
And you are satisfied with everything that is going on, and you feel that Charles Poku should be the MP for this area?
Yes, please. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So he says he is a painter, and he's been working in this constituency, and he doesn't feel that it is a measure intended to buy the votes, their votes. Hello, everyone's saying.
Bacha Efremi Mefia.
Na dentina o ya delegate ala.
Me pacha da bi.
Na ewie inka se ka koye adwuma bi ni ade adentina wo hase a me muso wadi asa ho nyina akrafo.
Me pacha me party ni hu dontia. Tina Malaysia me wa hanu mo no.
Na party ni wa ye den anka sa ma wo.
Oh, onya hwe ma me de ba me ni akọ free education. Tina ma me so me di akire bi no.
Okay. Na wankasa constituency se we hu se niema omo ye road ni niema road ni bi ho omo sha se ko omo ja kuregu ho sesi ano ehu se amma ne mu so pa onje ndi se abato ye betu ntina omo asan abaye omo di ahoden abehye
O me pa cho da bi.
Ade ntina ofi
Adwuma ne ye ne dada ntia.
omo ye ndada sesen
Say your road not say so a pioneer person when you know mine or my maya a can't meet me any quenchia my actually young pint and I'm almost so
Did that day to my yakwana just a by election by no more what young cabbage.
oh me patch yes sir no don't go so more by a fans and also come be the fun sir
over to my joke question and also over to my child.
Patch me them NPP but metal NPP.
Okay, thank you. So I was asking her why she even came here and said that this is his party, her party, and she will vote for the party any day. She's an NPP sympathizer. The party has not really done anything for her specifically, but her brother has enjoyed a free SHS, and in terms of development, they need development, and that is why the various constructions are currently ongoing. Now, okay, so let's speak with this final person. Alex, and then constituency constituency mu eniema mu hia na eniema ekoso ni ade en hu ni say.
Oh, what we need there because it means urban obebu am asin of and put to a ne kan kwa ye pen sebeka.
Na George Achikwesi ya mo friend Boga. Na yesi Boga de ni trimu ye pa Boga o ye bi ma mo ni ade en. Den na wa switch ko opoku sesi a so beto am opoku.
Yeah, the ni nafa because again ni no ya tibi hwe because so far as I'm NPP ni ya dia me Jokwesi no me support no because kwa fa so the buy no amwa Ghana
ma ben no fa so buy
sene ne ka ya ekura no koye mienu no wono yi what do you call it country Canada ni ono so wa Ghana ni anu ti na ma sa ohanu na buy because send pa wo di hu di buy ya nka sa ohanu na no sabi ka asen of ka yakoya nim because kwa fa so the buy no ma yemputo na yehwe no atwe abetire tesi enya owura chance no obebo ma se mputo na yehwe no ebe sa ba
nti wankasa wotwe aban ba ye den pa na wa ya ma wankasa obegina so ade ato aban na ma aban
no ma me de ma me enum nyina wie free ss ama se anu obi na adwuma se ne fata de o che so eba no so ba ai me ankasa so no mitu se enu bebre akoso a mani je ho nti MPP de waya abanya oba ewiase na besesa ama yanso no enya fa hudi.
Well, so what this man is also saying is that, well, the MPP hasn't really done anything for him, but for the fact that two of his siblings have benefited from the free senior high school, and there are numerous projects that are also being done in the constituency. That is the basis for him to vote for Charles Opoku and by extension the NPP. Let me also remind you that the NPP now has a parliamentary candidate elect. Mr. Charles Opoku polled 397 votes as against Freeman, who polled 136. Charles Opoku 397 as against 136 by Freeman. Currently, as we speak, the party bigwigs, all the supporters, they've marched to the big town of Asanbreku, where there is going to be a mammoth rally to announce officially to the people of Asanbreku that they have indeed gotten a candidate, and a candidate in the person of Charles Opoku. And so tonight, the party indicates that the actual campaign, the effective campaign that they say they are going to watch, is starting tonight, and they are not going to leave any stone unturned until this seat is won by the new Patriotic Party.
My colleague Richard Kujinyako joining us there from the Sea North constituency. We'll keep our eyes on that. This is your election headquarters. We also focus on the NDC because it has indicated that its candidate for the elections will be James Jachi Kwesen in spite of his challenges. Before we get to the side of the National Democratic Congress, let's bring in the Communications Director for the New Patriotic Party, Richard Ahiangwa, is joining us via Zoom. Thank you, sir, for your time. So, quite a smooth process, no major challenges, but will this inure to your ultimate electoral victory, in your view?
Please, I think your line was a bit faint.
I was just pointing out there that just as we've heard from Our reporter there, my colleague Richard Kujunyako, indicating to us that Charles Opoku is now the parliamentary aspirant or candidate-elect for the New Patriotic Party within the Asin North area. No major hitches for today. I'm just wondering if that's a good omen for your political party, with a belief that you will win the Asin North seat eventually.
Absolutely. Thank you very kindly. I think that the outcome of the elections today is a sign of good things to come. We've always indicated, following from the success in Kumawu, to repeat the same thing there. Our party people deserves a very good commendation for the way they conducted themselves from start till finish. I want to also take the occasion to commend the General Secretary, the National Chairman of our party, for supervising a process such as this. So I think that, like you asked, is evidence of good things to come. And I think that on account of that, this 27th election will be a victory for the New Patriotic Party.
The decision by the NDC to retain their embattled candidate, the belief is that he may be winning some sympathy votes based on some of the challenges he's faced over the period. You don't feel that will play against you as a political party?
Not at all, not at all. You know, the former, well, I said, Mr. James Kwesing is not an innocent party in this matter. The NDC would like us to believe otherwise. But he knew full well that he was not in a position to contest when he filed in 2020 to become the parliamentary candidate for the constituency on the NDC's ticket. He knew he didn't have to do that. He knew he had to have his certificate in hand. So he's not an innocent party. You only qualify for anybody's sympathy if you are innocent, but he's not innocent. And so on the basis of that, he deserves no sympathy vote, and I don't think he's going to get any. What Asin North needs now is one who is honest, one who will be focused on the job for them, for the period that his misrepresentation has cost the people. Because, you know, much of advocacy work requires some legwork. Government will distribute and have this development go everywhere proportionally. But then if you have an effective MP, he adds to what comes to you. And that's what Asin North has been missing for the better part of this second term of the president. And now we have the opportunity to elect an NPP MP, one who can walk on the day one to Parliament and be able to begin to establish contact with all the ministries, agencies, and departments to say that we are running a bit behind. Asin North needs to accelerate our development. And he, as an NPP MP, will be able to push the right knobs and have development go to the people of Asin North in the manner they deserve. And
Richard, the conversation about overnight projects, allegations that it's a signal of vote buying, similar to what the NDC claimed when you're running the Kumawu by-election. You're not perturbed as a political party?
No, Blessed, I would suggest to you that ignore the NDC. They don't have any real conversation to be had in Asin North. And you know that they started this conversation about, oh, his vote is not in the constituency. And they knew very well that has nothing to do with anything, because their own candidate in the Kubawu election, our candidate in the Kubawu election, had their votes outside the constituency, and that didn't create any problem. The NDC is struggling with a message. They have nothing propositionally to give to the people, and all they want to do is ways and means create doubt and create conflict situations to be able to benefit out of that. We are clear in our minds. Our focus is that how do we get development to every part of this country? The MPs play a critical role, and now we've succeeded in putting a parliamentary candidate out there to be marketed. What we are going to do effective today is to try and rally the constituency to buy into the vision of the government to say that we want development to come everywhere. We want every MP to engage to ensure that what their people deserve, they get. And so Charles Opoku, who is now the parliamentary candidate, we believe will win the seat. And if he does, he will then contribute to ensuring that the lots of the people of Asin North are enhanced. And I think that on the 27th, New Patriotic Party will win. The NDC will come with all sorts of schemes, but that's not where we are focused. Those schemes, the days for those are past. Now everybody is focused. People want advancement for their communities. They want development. President, I tell you this. I think on, 2 days ago, I heard about some young people, concerned young people from Asinov who gave a press conference to talk about how is it that they are terrified about the prospect of Mr. Kwesi running because of the real risk of him probably ended up in jail for the criminal liability, that case that is hanging around his neck. So we're looking at a choice between stability and instability, a choice between certainty and uncertainty, with the NPP proposing stability with now Charles Opoku going forward to accelerate development for the people, and the NDC are bringing a candidate who offers nothing but uncertainty and instability for the people of Asinov. And we think that Asinov deserves better. They must get a candidate who is at work, who is not embattled with legal cases, and who does not face a prospect of being jailed because of his perjury.
Well, the people who matter, the electorates, constituents will be deciding your fate as a political party. But your counterpart, Sammy Gyamfi, has been in a war path with the Electoral Commission, even over the nomination process. The document talks about sets of people nominating the candidates being same as the candidates who comes from the same constituency. At least that's the interpretation from the side of the opposition political party. You've been watching this whole conversation surrounding the nomination process itself and what the dictates of the Electoral Commission is suggesting. You feel that the EC should explain its side better?
No. I mean, Sami is not being serious. The whole NDC enterprise in Asinov is not being serious. I just told you earlier that they are set up to create distractions. They are set up to just muddy the water. They are not there to campaign honestly to do anything.
Yeah, but he's provided grounding for that, and you've read that as well. There's no grounds for it. Yeah, but you've read what's on the nomination form, as is pointed out. Yes.
Yeah. Listen, I don't have to read the form.
Right.
Okay, I don't have to read the form. You should ask Sammy if he knows that their parliamentary candidate, the one they fielded, with an equal chance of winning the 23rd May election, Kwesi Amankwa, where his vote is when he contested. Did he know about this when they fielded that guy? When they fielded him to contest, did he know that the guy didn't have his vote in there?
Yeah, but that's the work of the Electoral Commission, isn't it? To check and to be sure that what you're stating on paper reflects the reality.
What vetting guy? Sorry?
I'm saying that, yes, I'm just saying that's the work of the Electoral Commission.
That's what I'm saying, but you as a party, but he is not the question, right? He's now raising the question, and his party has submitted an individual whose vote is not in the constituency. So everything he's raising now, they've been in violation of it if that is the case he wants to make. So that just tells you that they're being hypocritical. They're not being serious. And when I say they're not being serious, I'm not saying that in a bad sense. I'm just saying that they're joking with the whole serious matter that exists. Right? The Asinov conversation, I tell you without any shadow of doubt, the NDC doesn't have a message to go to town with, because if you're a political party, you cannot vet your candidate such that an individual who is in clear breach of the Constitution, you pass that individual to go contest, and now the issue is hanging around your neck. Right? And so the least you can do is to eat humble pie. You don't come around trying to throw doubts in the air about anybody. When your own candidate, everything they were saying about Charles Opoku, their candidate was before Charles Opoku, and who said that is a problem? The Constitution is supreme. And I tell you, look, if the Constitution gives the EC power in Article 55, having given them that power in 45 to supervise, Article 45 to supervise public elections, and they are actualizing that in 51 by making constitutional rules to govern elections, the rules that the Electoral Commission make cannot supersede the law that gave it power to make those rules. So if Sami is a lawyer, and I know he knows these things, right? He knows, but they're just trying to create petty doubt and make it appear as if something is amiss. Nothing is amiss. The EC has power to make rules to govern the elections. The EC rules cannot supersede the Constitution. It's a basic fundamental rule of law that the Constitution is supreme. Any other law in conflict with it would not stand. So the Constitution will stand. So all that argument was about nothing. And really for the NDC to throw down because they don't have anything to say. We're going to engage them. And I said, just like we did in Kumawu, our proposition is to canvass people. We're not going there for any mess. We're going to canvass people to vote party because we believe development must happen, and Assinov deserves development.
And some experts and political watchers there taking on the even the Electoral Commission itself for laying or sowing the seed for discord and tension in the kind of response that we've seen from an independent elections management body, accusing the National Democratic Congress of lacking evidence in the 2020 presidential petition case. This is a separate contest. Why should the EC stoke more tensions by referring to what happened in the past, particularly in a different set of elections?
Well, I may have to talk to the EC about that. But if this happenings now is anything to go by, you can conclude that the NDC is up to no good. And if anybody talks to them in those terms, it is as a result of their conduct. But what we're inviting them to do in Assinov is that, look, I have a belief that it's a 50-50 situation. But right now, I am scared to the marrow that in the unlikely event NDC wins that seat, they're not going to do anything for the people. But I've been there. I've been to Assinov.
Okay.
And you want to tell me, see, that deserves representation. Look, and let me just tell you one thing. The NDC is in town canvassing that, oh, Sal needs representation, Sal needs representation. They are here in Assinov trying to risk the representation of the people with an individual who has a real prospect, okay? He has a date with the law, and that date could end him bad and possibly in jail. And they are risking that on the people, possibly setting up another date for a by-election if the law comes down to it. I'm not trying to prejudice anything,
but that should be good news. That should be good news to you as the NPP, isn't it?
Why would a political party subject a people to that kind of risk?
I'm saying, Richard, that should be the headache of the NDC and perhaps good news for you if it happens.
Well, unfortunately, I'm a Ghanaian. It's not a thing of NDC and NPP. It's about the development of the people. We need to make responsible decisions. The NDC must take calculated risks. This risk they are taking is uncalculated. It's exceedingly irresponsible. And they needed to have reined themselves in and move away from that. Because why? You are telling the people that we brought this person and he was in breach of the law, but he's the only one in the NDC? Is that really what they are telling us? And I'm telling you that election, it can be up, it can be down. So in the event the very unlikely outcome happens, and then this gentleman had to go to jail, what happens? Is that a financial loss or so that we have to go back to another by-election? So that's why, for us, it's our concern, to answer your question, as a new patriotic party, we are giving it everything to ensure the NDC would not win that seat. On the 27th of June, we are going to leave no stone unturned and ensure that on the day the NPP wins, that is good for Assinov and that is good for Ghana.
Okay, grateful. Thank you for spending some time with us. Richard Ahiangba, Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party. Well, Youth Group, Youth Bridge Foundation, says there's a real risk of scores of young persons being disenfranchised if the Electoral Commission does not reopen the register for young persons who have now attained 18 to obtain voters register before the by-election. Let's bring in the Programs Officer for the Foundation, Najwa Ahinkwan, who's joining us via Zoom. Thank you. We know that clearly looking at the timelines and the days leading to the elections, it's simply next to impossible to run a limited registration exercise. You agree? And kindly unmute for me as you make the point.
Thank you very much for having me here. We at Youth Bridge Foundation don't think it's a limited time for the Electoral Commission to register the few youth in Asen North who have turned 18 years. They can do this within 4 to 5 days. Hence, it's possible for them to do the registration for the people in Asen North to also exercise their franchise.
You're aware that, for instance, the New Patriotic Party is just getting their candidate, the NDC also doing same and having James Jachikwesin back. Just barely 20 days to the main elections. A number of processes and events leading to that big exercise. I mean, what would the country lose, and by extension the people of Asin North, if these young voices are given the opportunity in the next round of elections?
If the youth are not given the opportunity now, it means we are setting the precedent where youth can be set aside and decision-making can go on. But here lies the case, it is their right, according to Article 42 of their Constitution, that they have to exercise their vote once they turn 18 years. So they are just upholding their right. If we can nullify a candidacy, then we have to also uphold the law. So if we are going to do this, then we are setting a precedent where in the years to come, people who turn 18 after an election, voters registered in that, can let go of it, and then you don't have to register them. But we need to uphold the law at every point in time. If the calls for postponing the election, we need to do it and then make sure that the right things are done.
And legal opinions divided on this. The fact that the CI governing this election may not be as recent as what's going on in the floor, where we'll have the opportunity to have continuous registration going forward. So if we're using the previous regime or framework that the Electoral Commission is working with, it might be a challenge legally to have all these people registered before the election.
So since 2012, we've argued for a continuous voters registration, where once you turn 18, you can just walk into the district office like you do for National Health Insurance Scheme, where there's a continuous registration. If the government is going to do this, then we even get to the point where people turn 18 years and they still don't have a card. So there's a way of telling the Electoral Commission to go back to the stance of making voters registration a continuous process, where the youth can walk into the district office when they turn 18 to get a valid voter's ID card and then can engage in any by-election or any national election that comes up. So it's not that it's not possible. It's possible for them to do it if they are willing to do this.
Failure to see the Electoral Commission organizing a limited registration, what will happen from the perspective of your foundation? Are you seeking to go to court?
So for the Constitution, there are some constitutional rights that need to be upheld, and there are powers attaining to that. So if the Electoral Commission does not do the job, then we will proceed with every constitutional right and power available to us to make sure that the youth of Asen North are also heard. And
what's immediate on the list? What's your priority?
To get the Electoral Commission to register the youth before the by-election.
Next legal option for you, as you're pointing out? You're going to court?
The next legal option. So as the Constitution mandates, when there's a breach according to the exercise of discretionary powers in the Article 296, there are some steps that can be taken, which we are willing to go by, as stated in Article 296 of our 1990.
Yes, so which of them are you opting for? My question then.
If we have to go to court, we will go.
Okay, grateful. Anajwa Ayinkwa there joining us from the Youth Bridge Foundation. And you're welcome back. Over 300,000 children in the northern region lack some school furniture. That's the latest that we're discovering in our new episode of Ghana School of Shame. And this has been supplied by the Ghana Education Service. And due to lack of furniture, of course, we know that school children are having a tough time in parts of the northern region. In the very final of our season 2 of the series on Ghana Schools of Shame, Jojo Kobana now reports.
Dry season. Dry season. Dry season. Dry season. Rainy season. Rainy season. Rainy season.
The Christian Heritage School in the Tatale district of the northern region has inadequate furniture, so the children sit on stones and blocks to study. Some of the children simply lie down if they start to feel uncomfortable. They become playful, dirty, and sometimes occasionally nod off on the bare floor. Research from the Ghana Education Service in the Northern Region shows only 33.6% of children at the kindergarten level have school furniture. The data also shows that 56% of primary school children do not have furniture. It is almost the norm to be without school furniture.
For kindergarten enrollment currently stands at 881, and of that number we have 52,643, and that gives us a 33.6%. So in total, about 104,238 children are currently either perching with somebody or sitting on the ground.
The total furniture deficit in the Northern Region alone stands at 321,116. Olivia Chemame is in her early teens. She is unwilling to sit on the bare floor at this point in her adolescence. She wants the government to stock her school with enough furniture.
After sitting on stones and blocks for long hours, you start to develop sores on your buttocks because the surface is quite rough. You feel very uncomfortable and unable to pay attention and learn. We park about 3 to 4 blocks before we sit. If you get up abruptly, the blocks may fall on your toes and you would even get hurt. We are pleading with government to come to our aid. It is unfair when we sit for the same national exams and we're expected to perform like schools in Tamale and Accra. Some parents can afford to take their children to private schools while we remain here in ill-resourced schools.
Lack of school furniture is just one of the many challenges in her school. Studies are conducted under simple sheds which are thatch-roofed without walls. Teachers say the children are subjected to the whims of the weather.
When during Harmattan time, you'll be there, then the wind will blow dust onto ourselves. The whole class will now be very, very dusty. Children and the teachers, they will all be struggling with their eyes. So writing or looking on the board becomes a challenge. And during rainy season too, it becomes very, very worse. Anytime it rains in the morning, that means teaching and learning cannot take place.
It rained the day after JoyNews finished filming and departed Tatale. The personnel there filmed and sent videos to show what they had been complaining about. But that is not all. Sometimes reptiles invade classrooms, disrupting class sessions.
And now, inconsistent implementation of the school feeding program coupled with delays or non-payment of school feeding caterers are contributing to a sharp decline in enrollments at the basic level of education across the country. Enrollments at the primary level declined from an average of 91% in 2016 to 80% in 2020, while the junior high school enrollment also fell from 50% to 45% within the same period. These were contained in a 2022 Ghana Social Development Outlook report launched at the University of Ghana. Carlos Kaloni of JoyNews has more.
The Ghana Social Development Outlook report is a biannual research findings published by the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. The launch of the 6th edition of the report highlighted 10 thematic social sectors, including education and population, with mixed findings and recommendations. On education, the report identified a decline in enrollment at the basic level from 91% in 2016 to 80% in 2020 at the primary level. While the junior high schools recorded a 5% decline from 50% to 45%, the report attributed these declines to a number of factors, including delays in payments of school feeding caterers. Professor Peter Korte is the director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research.
In terms of education, we saw that net enrollment, although picked up, started declining in some areas, particularly because for some particular areas, it is the school feeding, capitation grant, and some of the support that comes from government that enhances the net enrollment, and therefore where there are challenges, the numbers will go down.
Even though the country's annual population growth per the report stays at 2.1%, reaching 61.6 million by 2051, the total fertility rate of the country declined from 6.4 in 1988 to estimated 3.7 per woman in 2021. Explaining the causes of this trend and its long-term impact on the country's workforce to JoyNews, a research fellow at ISA, Dr. Michael Kudum, called for improved economic conditions.
If we should experience sustained decline in total fertility rates, then we should expect labor force, the size of our labor force, to be reducing. Currently, the size of the youthful population is high, so it may not pose as a problem. But into the 10 years, 20 years from now, if it tends to sustain as this, so what will happen to our labor force is that the size of our labor force will reduce, and then the quality of our labor force will reduce, the strength in terms of productivity per labor force will reduce, and that will affect the general economy as a whole. We need to tackle it from the root cause, which is the economy-wide factors.
To reap the full benefit of the report ahead of Social Development Outlook 2022, Dr. Martha Awo, however, called for more collaboration between policymakers and academia.
I think if we are able to collaborate with one another, if we are able to work hand in hand, which is supposed to be the case anyway, because our findings are to government. Like most of our references were made to the Sustainable Development Goals, and it is all part of government agenda. So we hope that government will take it over, but then it just boils down on strengthening that collaboration between academia and government.
In a speech read for her by Professor Daniel Frempong-Fori, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Nana Abba Appiah-Amfo, described the launch of the 2022 ISA report as timely.
At a time of heightened global socio-economic challenges, research-led decision-making and policy-making offers one of the surest lifelines to achieving sustainable development that can have a meaningful and lasting impact on people. Therefore, the launch of the 2022 Ghana Social Development Outlook GDSO today couldn't have come at a better time.
From the University of Ghana, my name is Carlos Caloni for JoyNews.
And as we mark the World Food Safety Day today, a senior nutrition officer at the Techiman Holy Family Hospital, Senor Emmanuel, is urging consumers to be wary of reading labels on processed foods to ensure that they stay away from the intake of expired food products. The nutritionist, who has been speaking with my colleague Anna Sabit, says the public must be mindful of what they consume, as this could lead to fatal health issues like food poisoning in the worst case scenario. And we could also be experiencing some issues of death. There's more in this report.
On average, over 1.6 million people get sick due to unsafe food every day, and more than 340 children under the age of 5 die due to preventable foodborne diseases every day, according to statistics available to the World Health Organization. Locally, Ghana has suffered from widespread and serious repercussions of improper food practices, with the country recording an estimated 420,000 cases of foodborne diseases each year. These ailments have the potential to cause fatal health issues like starvation, dehydration, and even death. But how concerned are the people on the streets when it comes to food safety, and what are some of the factors they consider before buying food from vendors on the streets?
Going out to buy food, I used to check a lot of things. First place is the environment where the person is selling the food. And secondly, I look at the person who is selling the food, the appearance, how she has been dressed, and so on. And then I used to look at what the person is using to take the food into the polythene or into the bowl that I'm going to eat from. So these are some of the things I used to check. But the environment is very much important for me whenever I'm going to buy food.
Most of the times we check, first I found my favorite food, check the environment. Check the environment when it's clean. But the problem is maybe the place where they cook the food is not the place where they sell the food. So where they sell, they will decorate it fine, you go, but maybe the kitchen or the place where they cook it won't be that tidy or neat. So that's where the problem is. So
I look at the environment. The person selling it,
whether the person is well kept, an environment, the booze, or how the person serves the food. They are all things I consider before I buy food from outside.
Even before we continue, we need to know what food safety is all about and what constitutes safe food. Senor Emmanuel is a senior nutrition officer here at the Holy Family Hospital.
Food safety virtually talks about the wholesomeness of what we consume. So it means whatever we take in should be wholesome and not injurious to our health, because we eat for a reason, just to nourish the body. But what needs to nourish the body shouldn't be injurious or pose threat to our health. That's virtually what food safety is about.
It is, however, important to note that there are some 3 hazardous components that could lead to the contamination of food from production line through to the consumption point.
We have safety or food safety hazards that may cause contamination to make the food unwholesome. So these are the biological agents, hazards, chemical hazards, and physical hazards. When we talk about the biological hazards, these are microorganisms you cannot see with our naked eyes, but when they come into contact with our food and we eat, it becomes injurious or it becomes unwholesome. And the chemical talks about chemical agents that may contaminate, that serves as food contaminants. And the physical ones are the things that are not supposed to be part of the food we eat. Physical objects. These can be nails, glasses, hair, and other things.
Food safety also goes beyond the mere preparation from the kitchen and then through the consumption stage. Sometimes what we buy from the markets, especially processed foods, there is the need for us to check the labeling as well as the expiry date and then the ingredient and then or content of what is in there. But how many people are concerned about checking the expiry date or the labeling of these foods we consume each and every day? Let's find out from the people we meet here on the streets.
What do you check? The expiring dates. Yeah, expiring dates. That's what I check. The expiring dates.
Beyond the expiry dates, there are other labeling, etc. Do you care about them?
For what? I want milk. Milk is there. Expiring date, yes, is within the usable date. So that's what I check. I buy ideal milk. I buy it. That's it.
When is a canned food? I used to check the expiring date. I don't really read on the content because I know that I'm going to buy milk or I'm going to buy malt. So definitely malt is inside or milk is inside. So I used to look at the expiring date without looking at anything. Yeah.
Senor Emmanuel is urging consumers to inculcate the habit of reading labels of processed foods as a means of steering away from food poisoning.
One most important thing that we normally becomes oblivious of is reading of labels. First of all, we have to cultivate the habit of label reading. One, it has safety measures and key information on them. That helps us to ensure our safety. Expiry date on packaged foods is one important information we always have to look out for. And depending on your conditions, the condition you have, it will determine the kind of food you can eat and those you have to avoid.
He was, however, quick to urge the general public to be mindful of consuming unsafe food, as this could lead to low productivity and, in the worst case scenario, death.
When you fall sick because of foodborne disease, you will be unproductive. If you have an episode of diarrhea and vomiting, can you work? You can't work to at least get something in return. So it goes a long way to affect you in terms of your health and that of your pocket. It can also lead to death if the right interventions are not put in place. So it has a precarious implication on our health and our pocket.
These consumers are, however, perturbed with the unsanitary conditions at various food vending points along the streets and calls on authorities to mount surveillance to help minimize the consumption of unsafe foods.
I don't know those who are in charge of it, but I'll be urging them, the environmental protection ES, they have to go around, especially the environment. I think in town, I saw one wache seller selling wache around the gutter, but the gutter is very filthy. So I will be telling the government to assign the environmental agency for them to look at those things. I think that would be very much important. If only they will be allowed to sell that area, they have to make the gutter very nice before they sell something there.
And when it's about processed food to the environment, how hygienic the place is, even the person selling it itself, how tidy the person is also before we come. It's something we need to do to educate so that it will bring the disease burden down. When it comes to cholera, now that the rains have started, it's something we need to watch out for.
So as we mark the World Food Safety Day, we've brought you this engaging interaction with the people of Techiman. By now you should know that it is critical that we take into consideration what we eat or what we buy from the streets, especially canned or processed foods, needs to be checked. The labeling needs to be properly checked before we go about purchasing or consuming them at the end. From the streets of Techiman here in the Bono East region, my name is Anna Sadit, reporting for JoyNews.
And back here, residents of such a Jamasi in Chevi in the eastern region are recording strange diseases they suspect are being caused by illegal mining activities in the Tiwa forest. The residents are angry about the destruction of their water bodies by illegal miners. Chief of the area, Berima Opogun Butu Dankwa, the first, wants his colleague chiefs to help government and Galamsey to end Galamsey now. Aisha Ibrahim visited the Jamasi community and filed this report.
You can see how destructive the land has become, and you can see how cyanide has destroyed the water body, how the water has changed color. You can see it's all cyanide, some looking greenish, some looking yellowish. Remember, the chemicals that these people use to mine stay in the soil and in the water for a very long time. The people in the community say they are beginning to record strange diseases and they do not know where it is coming from. Matilda Asante is a native of Sejimase. She says the activity of illegal mining is making their lives miserable.
Because almost make a top eating at any time. And I feel so for my nation. And top water first, and so they are no more. Not a water crying because he wants if you forest cinema, a cook for my near son. This time I don't want to show a winning soon, so I put a. When I feel, you could my first into money help, but I'm not into my baha. Ama oda if you talk a cry and then some malaria no chichi mano keke.
So Matilda Asante is essentially saying that they used to go to farm and drink water in the farm, but because of illegal mining they are unable to do that because all the water bodies surrounding them in their farms have been distracted by the illegal mining. Again, those illegal miners, they dig the pits and they do not cover it, and so sometimes people can mistakenly fall into those pits. And so anytime she's going to the farm with her children, she's always uncomfortable.
Mine in Galamsey no. Na on easy. Say Galamsey ni shemu kana say yejai. Na enso ye na yasundri.
Emmanuel Achianotebi, also resident of Sejimathe, laments that all efforts to get government's attention to the problem has yielded no result.
The cause of the problem, why we are not being able to uproot what is going on, is because of the powerful people behind this operation. You see, you arrest them and the next thing you hear is that they have been released. Nothing happens to them. 2014, 2015, there was an operation here and they arrested about 500, more than 500 people, and they seized over 11 excavators that was packed at the assembly. Before we realized, all the excavators were gone, and the reason is that somebody comes in with a letter from the seat of government or from a powerful place, and then the MCE or whoever is in charge have nothing to do than to release them.
Chief of the area, Berima Okopim Botu Dankwa I, is worried his people are not benefiting from the legal mining but are mostly affected in terms of health.
Small diseases, rashes. Even formerly in my community, you don't have mosquito there. Mosquito. But now, don't try. All because the trees and then the lines, they have destroyed everything. And it's very painful. It's very painful. And they don't know that the ancestors, it's true, it's a land God created. But I'm telling you, there's a spirit on it. Recently, a lot of people have died. Nicodemously, then they pick the person and bury him up. Of course, they're angry.
CEO of the Center for Social Impact Studies, Richard Elmer, says the country's biggest casualty ever has been that of our forest reserves. For him, sustainable mining and preventing the use of cyanide are key to dealing with the problems that confront us. Aishi Rhyme, JoyNews, Etiwa Forest.
Now, government says its objectives for the Greening Ghana project has been effectively achieved, as reports indicate that 70% of the trees planted survived. Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Benito Osubio was speaking during a visit to partners of the Green Ghana Day celebration. We have more in this report.
The Green Ghana Day was introduced in 2021 by President Nana Akufo-Addo as part of an aggressive national afforestation program to restore the lost forest cover of Ghana and to contribute to the global effort to mitigate climate change. In anticipation of this year's Green Ghana Day, Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Benito Osubio is on a visit to partners of the Green Ghana initiative to express gratitude for their continuous support.
In 2021, we started with an initial target of 5 million, and at the close of the day, we were able to distribute and plant 7 million. Yes. And then the following year, we set another target of 20 million. And we did around 24 million. Yes. As we speak now, on the average, if you take the 2 years together, the success rate or the survival rate of these seedlings is pegged at around 70%. This has been through our own observation, monitoring exercises that we've done, and then finally, one that has been done by national security on their own. They even didn't inform us that they were doing this, but they did it behind us, and then they brought us their report, which showed clearly that, yes, these are the challenges, and this is where it's been successful.
The group CEO for Gwel PLC, Kwame Osei-Prempe, one of the partners, was full of praise for the initiative as he believes it will help deal with some of the country's environmental issues.
This dream is a real good one timelessly, and every Ghanaian ought to support it, especially corporate bodies. And we know that use of fossil fuels damage the environment. So the more trees we have, the better it is for us, because some of the carbon can be absorbed and you can have some free air to breathe. So we at God shared your dream. That's what propelled us to bring that donation. But we do not believe that we did anything extraordinary, because it's our duty to help Mother Ghana.
Managing Director for Japan Motors, Abdul Somod Al-Hassan Musa, said the initiative will play a significant role in reducing the impact of global warming.
So, and then we also hope that with this kind gesture we have done, the next time we are meeting, you give us a brief of the number of plants that we have planted and which have survived, so that we think that actually our contribution will go a long way to improve the green ideas that we all have. So this is a small thing that I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The team also visited the Chamber of Mines, where the CEO assured continued support for the initiative.
The same way you mentioned that this is coming from the Honourable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, I want to be transparent here to say that we discussed the matter of Green Ghana at the highest level of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, and a decision was taken that we should continue to budget for Green Ghana going forward. So that commitment is always there. It's always going to be there. It's going to be a part of us.
This year's Green Ghana Day is scheduled for 7th of June with the goal of distributing a total of 10 million trees. Esther Nkrumah's report read to you.
And we are already in the second half of 2023, and tomorrow Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will be addressing the nation on the state of the Ghanaian economy. It's not strange for such an address to gain massive public attention due to the fact that there's a reaching impact of the economic performance on the wealth and health of every one of the 31 million population here in Ghana and beyond. Mr. Ofori-Atta's address coincides with the arrival into the country of a team from the International Monetary Fund as part of a mission visit to track the progress of Ghana's economic recovery program. So what's the state of the Ghanaian economy? We find answers to that even before the finance minister speaks. Isaac Ofia, J data analyst with the Joy Research Desk, is joining us with more. Isaac, let's start off with the performance pre and post the IMF bailout. We're not doing quite well, and then the bailout is now in. Are we able to track how we've been performing so far?
Well, it's fair to say that we are not even 1 month into IMF ECF program. And you said it right, that the IMF team will be in Ghana probably this week, and to form part of the first assessment that the IMF will be reviewing our ECF program. Remember, we've already enjoyed the first $600 million. And after this assessment and looking at the condition and the health of the Ghanaian economy, they'll go ahead to release the next tranche, which is also around the same 600 million. This year, we are expecting 1.2 billion from the IMF and then other 520 million from the World Bank. It's simply because, just like you said, the health of the economy is probably an issue that everybody would have to take into consideration, because when it comes, it affects everybody. I've actually said that this is the first time in my life that I've seen, every Ghanaian talking economics, because everywhere you go, you hear people talking about haircuts, you hear people talking about inflation, you hear people talking about depreciation of the cedi. Right. It simply means that when the economy is not in a very good shape and it's affecting every pocket, you hear or you find each and every one in the country, probably 30 million people in Ghana also talking about it. Yeah.
But then in terms of the indicators, the macroeconomic indicators, are they improving? Are they looking good? Because we're expecting the finance minister to touch on that tomorrow.
Well, so we said that for the IMF program to be successful, the first thing that it has to resolve, or the first a part of the economy that it has to touch should be the exchange rate situation. And if you look at the exchange rate situation, the data is clear, and it's the fluctuation has not been that bad if you compare this year to last year. Right now, if you have about 10 cedis or 11 cedis, you can still exchange for $1. Last year around this time, we're battling with exchange rates. You needed 15 cedis or 16 cedis to do the same thing. The inflation is coming down after peaking at 54.1 in December. It's currently around 41%. And so generally, you can, see that the economy is trying to gain shape again.
So whether or not, of course, we'll bounce back is something we need to wait a bit more for because it's just early days yet. But we know that the question on the minds of the technical people watching Ghana's financial space is, are we going back to the IMF? That's the biggest question right now on the minds of the experts. But you've been doing some work on that. And we're to expect something from your desk.
Well, so this is actually the 16th time the 17th, in fact, that we are running a proper IMF program. We've actually enjoyed some, loans and other things, but those were not proper programs. And if you look at the 17th IMF program, and if you compare it to that of the 16th, it's a bit different in the sense that with the 17th IMF program, there's a lot of things that we have to do, like debt restructuring and all that. But if you listen to government and the posturing, it's as if that this should be our last. And even from the IMF country director, and then also from the the country leader who has been leading the team, you get the sense that the IMF want to put a permanent stop to this precarious nature of our borrowing and all that. But you have to ask yourself that with a debt currently over 400 billion Ghana cedis, almost crossing $1 trillion cedis, and around $50 billion, you also have to ask yourself that how long will it take us for us to reach sustainable levels? So we've been doing some work on it, and we've put together a very interesting documentary. We call it A Nation That Begs, tracking Ghana's all 17 IMF programs, and then also looking at our debt situation.
And that's airing
on the 12th of June. That's next week, Monday, on the AM show, and then also on Joy SMSs around 8 a.m. and then in the evening around 8 p.m.
Okay, we wait and look forward to that. Isaac Ofiaje joining us with the latest. And that's all we have for you here on the Pulse. I'm Blessed Sogam. We have more stories for you at myjoyonline.com. Thanks for watching.